Well, the e-safety commissioner is pushing full steam ahead with her new codes affecting social media and also affecting search engines and much more. Many Australians are wondering, what am I going to do about this age verification? Because it will apply to everybody. And I thought of no one better to bring on than Craig Kelly. We'll get to him in just a moment. But first, my name's Topher Field. This is the Topher Project, and I help busy people like you to make sense of the nonsense that surrounds us. And there is a lot of nonsense coming out of Canberra right now. Craig Kelly has been doing great work for a very long time, standing up for freedoms for all Australians. This particular issue is no exception, and he joins me right now. Craig, thank you so much for coming on the Topher Project.
Yeah, no, good to be with you again, Topher.
Now, I saw you mentioning something that I think not enough Australians know about, and that is the fact that VPNs aren't actually necessarily going to save us in the way that many Australians think that they are. I'd love to get you to talk about that, but first, what is this under 16s ban or the age verification going to apply to? Because a lot of people think it's just Facebook, just YouTube, just social media, but it's much broader than that, isn't it?
Well, Topher, just going back, the idea of this is we have to protect the children. So the Albanese government came up with this grand plan that anyone under 16 years of age would be kicked off all the social media platforms. That was going to be Facebook, X, right? And the Albanese said, no, this won't apply to YouTube. But what they did in Parliament before the last election, and the Liberals are just as much to blame for this. The Liberals held hands with Labor and rushed this through Parliament. There was a few notable people that voted against it. I think Alec Antic was one of them that crossed the floor and voted against it very bravely. But this is just a Trojan horse. The idea is that this Albanese government, in combination with eSafety Karen, they want every single Australian, or 97% or more of us, to all have digital identities that can be tracked. That's what this is all about. The idea that it's about protecting the children is simply a Trojan horse. Because, you can't. It's like when you're lining up at the pub sort of thing. And they've got to let people in and work out who's under 18. In this case, who's under 16. Now, in this case, unless they can do something to visually see you, they are not going to be able to make this work. So this will involve facial recognition and it will involve digital ID. This is something, if you're living in Cuba or you're living in North Korea or China, this is something you might expect. But this is happening here in Australia on our watch in the next couple of, actually we're now into weeks until this is away.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very, very serious situation. I try to avoid hyperbole. I try to avoid sort of fear porn. I know some people have built entire careers in online commentary just out of fear mongering. I try not to do that, but I will say this is an incredibly serious moment in Australia's history and will be studied for a long time to come, whether we succeed or fail in this particular fight. Now, a lot of people are saying that it's okay, I'll get a VPN and then I'll just make my location overseas somewhere, because you can do that with the VPN, and then I'll be fine. But the EKaren has already thought of that, and it seems that her code has already addressed that.
That's right. If you go through the legislation, it actually provides a provision in there that gives her, and this is the thing, all the powers under this legislation are left to eSafety Karen to decide. It's basically bypassing the Parliament, and it's subcontracted out to her to work out how these are going to apply. Now, one of those regulations enables her to force the platforms to take steps, and she calls them reasonable measures. Now, what are reasonable measures to eSafety Karen, I think are not reasonable measures to any other normal thinking Australian. So she is empowered to force the platforms to look for people that are trying to so-called get around this age verification. And we've had the bureaucrats on record. Jared Rennick, terribly sad that he lost his seat in the last Parliament. Jared Rennick got those bureaucrats in the Senate estimates, and he has them on record saying that what they plan to do is to get the platform to use AI technology to scan the internet to hunt for Australians. So if you say something, if you've got a VPN and you say something like, and this is I'm not making this up, you can go and you can look at Jared Rennick's own words and the Senate's, the eSafety Commission's employees' own words on this. They said if you say something like, the surf was good at Bondi, or, the cricket was great at the MCG today, or how did Collingwood go? Didn't Collingwood play well on the weekend? Something like that. Right? Or even Albanese is our worst prime minister. That is going to, those phrases that you post to your social media account are going to identify you as an Australian.
Yep.
And the e-safety commission is going to force these platforms to scan through the internet, scan through posts. And if you're identified as an Australian, you'll be cut off. Your account will be shut down and closed down. Even if you've got a VPN, you won't be able to access through that VPN. At the moment, it looks like YouTube, X, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, the whole lot of these platforms. So my message is, if you think that you're a bit complacent and you think, I don't have to worry about this, I don't have to fight because I'll just use a VPN, please think again. We're in the fight of our lives here. This is, as you mentioned before, this is going to be a turning point in the history of this country. We've always
100%.
been, since the first fleet arrived, it's always been the convicts and those fighting for freedom and the jailers and the prison wardens. This is one of these turning points where the prison wardens want to take control of the place.
Sorry to interrupt my interview with Craig Kelly. We'll get back to that in just a moment. But first, my name is Topher Field. This is the Topher Project, and I am 100% viewer supported. And this age verification bill is literally an existential threat to what I do, and in fact, all independent media in Australia. Because a lot of people are saying, well, why don't I just log off? I just won't watch anything on social media and YouTube anymore. But in a sense, that means they've won. It kind of means that we're surrendering because no longer can we actually communicate and keep real news alive in this country. So I would really appreciate your support as I fight this fight over the next couple of months to save what I do, but also to protect freedom in Australia. And you can do that either by buying me a coffee via the button at topherfield.net. I drink a lot of coffee, so that's much appreciated. But also you can do that by buying my books, Good People Break Bad Laws. Now, this is about civil disobedience, and I think that might be a relevant topic in this country right now. So if you think that civil disobedience is something that you'd like to know more about, learn more about, and understand its role in the modern age, this is a great place to start. There's also my second book, which is about the theology of civil disobedience, Good Christians Break Bad Laws, Romans 13, 1 Peter chapter 2, all the accounts from the Bible and the apostles and the early church about how civil disobedience is actually an obligation for us as Christians. Then there's also Battleground Melbourne. Now, this is about the lockdowns during COVID in Melbourne. It's a multi-award winning documentary, and you can watch it for free at battlegroundmelbourne.com, or you can buy the DVD from my website, which is goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. All of what you do in terms of buying any of my merch and buying me coffees helps me to keep doing what I do, which I think is going to be really important in the coming months as we are in a fight for our freedom here in Australia, certainly our freedom online. Thank you so much for watching. Let's get back to the interview with Craig Kelly.
They want to make sure everyone's got digital identity. And once they've got that, remember, this legislation is not just something that stands alone by itself. This will be backed up with hate speech, some type of mis and disinformation bill Mark II, 2.0, where they'll come back, and it will enable them to make sure that if you say anything against the government of the day, they'll know who you are and will be able to track you down. That is what this is all about.
And again, not wanting to buy into hype, we're seeing a reality in Germany right now where they're actually arresting people for making comments online that are disparaging of politicians. No longer do you have to be threatening or in any way suggesting a danger to their safety. If you were just simply being harsh in your criticism over there, this is Germany we're talking about. People are having their doors knocked on and they're being arrested and charges are being brought against people for that. What concerns me, Craig, is that it really does seem as though the EKaren has become a law unto herself. We actually saw concerns expressed about exactly that in Parliament, thanks to Senator Ralph Babet, one of the few good senators that we do have, who did some things last week that were looking really promising. And then, surprise, surprise, Craig, you'll be horrified to learn that the Greens did a backflip. I know, right? I was surprised as you are. And unfortunately, what Senator Babet was doing didn't work last week. He's got more plans. We'll talk about that in a moment. But one of my concerns is that actually, if we let the EKaren's powers grow the way that they are, they won't need to pass another misinformation, disinformation bill. The EKaren will simply be able to put out a new directive and it'll have to be followed.
Well, this is the problem. The Liberal Party had there was a chance that this legislation could have been blocked in the last Parliament. Now, a lot of us campaigned very hard against that mis and disinformation bill, and against all the odds, we actually won that fight, and that was blocked in the last Parliament. Right? The numbers were there that could have potentially blocked this legislation. But the Liberal Party going to the last election thought, oh no, let's hold hands with Labor and let's go softly, and join with Labor to pass this legislation, despite many of us in the background trying to scream the house down to say, don't do this, don't do this. Now, you're right. It was good to see this week that the Liberal Party actually side with Senator Babette, who's doing some great work on this and leading the charge, to try and at least get some inquiry up to see what these powers are. But the problem is the legislation the Liberal Party voted for. And remember, the e-safety Karen is a creation of the Liberal Party. Her job was, she was first appointed by Malcolm Turnbull. It was all good. She was there to protect the children. You know, it was all fine and dandy sort of thing, you know. And all of a sudden it sort of morphed into this, you know, government censorship regime. And then she was meant to be empowered, you know, by the Missing Disinformation Bill. And now this latest age verification bill simply, if you read through the bill, it subcontracts all the details of how this will be done out to her. So it's bypassing the Parliament. Like, it should have been, you come up with the recommendations, E-Safety Commission, if you think this is important, come up with the recommendations, bring the recommendations to Parliament, let's debate them in Parliament, let's let the public have a look at them, let the stakeholders, the platforms talk about them publicly, and then we'll have a vote on them. But it's been the other way around. It's been all the powers are given to her to work it out how it's done, and that's it. There's no provision for the Parliament to sort of say, you know, stop. So look, it's good to see the Liberal Party doing it, but unless the Greens don't support this, the Greens are, we know that controlling the Parliament with Labor, they're not keen on stopping this. They like a totalitarian future. That's what they see. As I said, this is, to me, one of the real turning points of Australian history. Yeah. Unless we get out there and fight, unless we get out there and protest, this is just going to go through. And that's why my warning is anyone that thinks that this is, oh, look, I'll be right, I'll just get a VPN and I won't have to worry about this. Please think again. Watch the tape of Gerrit Rennick interviewing those bureaucrats. If you think a VPN is going to save you, please put that thought out of your head and join us in this fight.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how we're going to fight back in just a moment, because you do have some plans on that. And the more we can do, then the more leverage we give to our few good politicians. We'll get to that in a second. But one more bit of doom and gloom, I guess, before we get to the fight back. This actually doesn't just apply to social media platforms anymore. I don't think enough Australians are aware of the fact that this is actually going to explicitly apply to search engines. And through that, it's actually going to apply to a lot of other things like Google Maps and so forth.
Yeah, look, we're yet to see the exact detail of how this is going to work. And this is coming in 100 days. Yeah. And we're yet to have confirmation from E-Safety Karen's office what exactly provisions she's going to apply. We know they've done this ridiculous, a facial identity check where they thought that, you'd sort of look there, you look down the lens of the camera and it'd work out whether you're 15 years and 364 days or whether you turn 16, which is complete. Look, you laugh, Topher. Look, but I don't know how they would have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, testing or so-called trialing this technology. When a 12-year-old kid could tell you this wasn't going to work. Right? Yeah. So we know, and there's a simple way. There's a very simple way this can be done. If you believe in age verification, why don't you do what we currently have for online alcohol sales? So if you go to any website in Australia and you want to buy alcohol online, a pop-up comes up, and you have to verify that you are over 18. Now, that's one way this could be done, right? But we know that E-Safety Karen will push this to the extremes, and you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to involve, you'll have to go after some third-party provider. We don't know what that's going to cost or what they're going to charge you. You'll have to submit, I would imagine, your driver's license, your passport, all your details of who you are, right? With some photographic evidence. And then you'll have to sort of stand there and pose to the camera. And then when you go to log on, the internet, and it appears to be, as you said, even if you want to do a Google Maps search, you're going to have to stand there, and the computer on the other side is going to have to look at your facial features, and you'll be digitally scanned, biometrically digitally scanned, to see if that matches your digital ID, to see if you'll be given access to that platform. I said, if you came up with this as well, this was happening in North Korea, you'd say, oh, geez, isn't that terrible, those poor North Koreans? Yeah. This is happening in Australia in the next 100 days.
Yeah. Well, I recently reread 1984, and I keep it on my desk here with me because this wasn't meant to be a manual, but unfortunately it's being used like a manual, a how-to by the e-safety Karen. But in 1984 they have these screens. It was written long enough ago. They didn't really have televisions in the way that we do now, but they had these screens on the walls that would have propaganda coming through them and had a camera that was always looking at you, and you always had to have a fairly neutral, satisfied kind of look on your face, otherwise you'd get in trouble for looking grumpy. And it feels as though we're almost entering that now, because as you rightly say, this isn't about a one-time age verification and once your account's been verified you're all good. They will have to make sure that the person that they verified is the person using the account. So you can imagine if my wife wants to jump onto my phone or jump onto my computer, if I'm driving and she needs to use my phone to look up where we're going, it's not going to recognize her face. Am I going to have trouble even using my own account in situations like that? I mean, it's so badly thought through. However, I think that's enough doom and gloom, Craig. Let's talk about the pushback, because we need to get Australians on their feet. We have had some success. Let's just a quick survey of history. Julia Gillard tried to bring in the News Media Council. That was one of the first really definite attempts at government censorship, and we knocked that on the head. We got rid of that.
We can go back before that, Topher. There was the Australia card. I'm a little bit older than you. I can remember the Australia card.
Gosh, yes, I'd forgotten.
They tried to put that Australia card in, and it bumbled along for months and months and months and months. And all of a sudden, there was this great groundswell of support against it. And there were huge meetings around the country. And Australians stood up and they said, we are not going to have this Australia identity card. That was back in the 1980s. The question is, does this nation still have the fight left in us that we had in the 1980s?
Yep. 100%. So since then, we've had the News Media Council. We knocked that on the head. The not a carbon tax that Julia Gillard wanted to push through, we knocked that on the head. We recently knocked the misinformation, disinformation bill on its head.
Correct.
And I think what we need to do in this case, Craig, is not only stop this age verification, but we actually need to get on the front foot so that the entire office of the E-Safety Commissioner ends up being abolished, because we, the people, rise up in such large numbers and with such loud voices. Now, to that end, you've got some plans. Tell us about what you've got in mind.
Yeah, look, first there's going to be a multiple strategy to do. First, we're going to try and wake many people up about what is going on, because a lot of people are busy. As your introduction, everyone's busy with their work. We've got to spread the message about exactly what this woman is planning to do and what the legislation allows her to do it, and how this threatens our freedoms. We've got to get that message out across to as many Australians as we possibly can, right? Next, we've got to get Australians on the front foot. We've got to get people attending protest rallies. We've got to get people writing to their MPs. We've got to get the opposition party to change their position and say, no, we are against that. Now, if we can do that, then all of a sudden you've got a situation where the Albanese government says, hang on a minute, we keep on pushing this, we might lose votes. And that is what changes the equation. If Albanese thinks this threatens his next term in office, and enough people, swinging voters, will vote against him because he's pushing this through, that's what can change it. So that's one of the reasons why I've been working today. It looks like we're looking for a protest here in Sydney, and hopefully we'll get them up around the rest of the country on the 13th of September. So that's in about 6 weeks' time. 1 p.m. Here in Sydney. And we're going to do it at the moment, the plan is to do it at Pyrmont Bay Park. Now, that's opposite for those that know Sydney. That's opposite there, the Star City Casino, down there around in the Darling Harbour area. There's very good public transport there. There's the light rail. You can walk across the Pyrmont Bridge. There's plenty of parking at the Star Casino, and there's restaurants and things for afterwards and beforehand, and plenty of facilities. So it's a good spot to have it. But most importantly, it is directly opposite E-Safety Karen's Sydney office. She has an office there in the building on the 4th floor overlooking Pyrmont Bay Park. So we want to hope that we can get enough Sydney-siders, people from all over New South Wales, and even from hopefully interstate, to come there on Saturday the 13th at Pyrmont Bay Park, right, 1 p.m, and protest against this. If we can get enough people there turning up in enough numbers and send a big enough message, and we've said we've won these fights before, we can win this one as well.
Yeah. Look, I'm going to put that in my diary as soon as we finish recording here, Craig. I will make the trip up to Sydney to be there for that. I think it's a great reason for people to go to the trouble, go to the effort of coming from wherever you are to Sydney, because that is where the E-Safety Commissioner's office is. Sure, it'll be happening on a Saturday, so she won't be in the office, but I think the symbolism of that is really important. And if we can get an enormous crowd of people there, I think that's going to send a very, very clear message. And it's also going to inspire people around the rest of Australia to be able to get involved and raise our voices. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Craig, this is our country, not theirs. And we need to actually start to throw our weight around. We need to start to actually be a group that speaks up for ourselves and speaks up for each other and begins to change the political incentives. Because what you said is exactly right. Albo will not respond until he realizes that his next election is at stake. And it's up to us to convince him that that's the case.
Exactly right. And I said, this to me, this is going to be a huge turning point in our nation's history going forward.
Yeah.
We go back to being almost like a penal colony, where surveillance is everywhere. That every time that you log on to the internet, you're going to have to undergo some type of digital facial, surveillance recognition, digital recognition. If that's the type of society that Australians want, well, that's what we're going to get. But I don't think Australians. I think there's still enough of us that say, we've been through the COVID period. I think a lot of people might be a bit embarrassed that they didn't stand up and fight harder during that period.
Yep.
And hopefully they're going to not let this happen.
Yep. Now, look, Craig, I'm right there with you. I'll be there with you literally in person in Sydney. Give us the dates and details. Obviously, this is provisional at this moment in time.
This is just very provisional. We've only just sort of sort this out today. We penciled in. It's Saturday, the 13th of September, 1 p.m. So just there in the middle of the day, the afternoon, right? And this is provisional again, where we have to get approval from the New South Wales Police. It'll be at Pyrmont Bay Park, there at the Star City Casino down there at Darling Harbour, right opposite. It's a good public transport, a very big park there. That's the plan at the moment. So, please pencil in the Saturday the 13th. Put that in your calendar. And hopefully, we'll be able to confirm that Pyrmont Bay Park location. Because, as I said, that's exactly outside the office of the Safety Commissioner, and that's where we want to send her a message.
And look, I'm just going to say, calling all Australians, please make the pilgrimage, be there, support us, and let's send a really, really clear message to the E-Safety Commissioner, to Anthony Albanese, and also to the opposition, to the Liberal Party. Grow a spine and recognise that you made a mistake when you empowered the E-Safety Commissioner the way that you have. Craig Kelly, thank you for all of your work. Where can people find you if they're not following you online? I strongly recommend that people do that. Where can they find you?
Yeah, totally. Look, X is Elon Musk's X is the best platform. It's just Craig Kelly at AFEE, which stands for Australian Foundation for Economic Education. So just Craig Kelly there, and you should be able to track us down, sort of thing. So we've got around about close to 175,000 people following us on that page. It's one of the largest political followings. So make sure you follow that, and that's where we'll put all the updates about these protest rallies coming up.
Brilliant, Craig. More strength to your arm. Please keep up the good work, and thank you for joining me here on the Topher Project.
Thanks, Topher. Great to be with you as always.
That was Craig Kelly talking about the role of VPNs and this threat to our online digital freedom in Australia. We do hope that you are able to join us at that protest that is coming up provisionally on the 13th of September in Sydney. Do try and get there if you can. My name's Topher Field. This is the Topher Project. And if you've appreciated this interview and the work that I do, and you understand the moment that we're in and the fight that we're in, then I'd really appreciate your help to keep that fight going by buying me a coffee via the button at topherfield.net, and also going to Good People Break Bad Laws and having a look at my books on civil disobedience. I think that's a very relevant topic for Australia right now. Also, Battleground Melbourne, my documentary about what went down during the COVID lockdowns in Melbourne. And there's also my merch, Good People Break Bad Laws, in a range of designs. And there's actually a whole bunch of other designs as well that aren't necessarily as provocative as this. Some of them are funny. All of them are conversation starters, and all of them will go a long way towards helping me to keep doing what I do and keep fighting this fight for online freedom in Australia. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. The algorithm loves you, and so do I. Please like, comment what you think and how you're going to be able to help with this fight as we go forward. Subscribe. I'm nearly at 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I'd love your help to get me there. And as always, think free.